in the last year or so, I'm bringing in more on performance aspect and wellness, because I feel that in order for us to
That's
be
a
at our top,
360, yeah.
yeah, because I'm looking at more holistic, especially from an organizational management development piece. Is like we don't
Absolutely.
operate in silos, and for you to be at your top performance, you need to incorporate your health, you need to incorporate your social connections, you need to incorporate your mindset. So it's not siloed anymore for me. So it's not just like, just or like we need to develop our talent. No. Like you need to go back to basics, and that's like my whole thing. Is I'm pushing like the 5 pillars right now, which is physical, mental, social connections, career fulfillment, and nutrition. So
Wow.
these 5 pillars, you need to be
Okay.
at your top performance in an organization, and
So
that's
let's-
what a lot of people
Okay,
miss.
let's drill on that, because most of the people who listen to this podcast are either CEOs, founders, investors, and from the metrics I see that those are the people who are at the top of their career. But at the same time, there's a little bit of, I don't want to say confusion, but it's like they reached a point in their life where they want to change. And the change is not what's next. It's, okay, I've been the CEO for this organization for this many years. And before that, obviously, I had to claw my way all the way up to the top. But there's an element of fulfillment that is not there. And I can see it in their eyes. I can hear it in their voice. I can feel it in their body language. But they don't know any better outside of their corporate environments, outside of leading massive organizations, outside of decision-making at the hundreds of millions of dollars. But if they leave it all, they don't know what they're going to do. And the one thing they want to be is either, you hear the word impact all the time, right? But then that's outwardly, inside, and it's is what they need to start with. And what's your thoughts on that? Looking at your framework.
Yeah. So I'm not going to pretend to give advice to CEOs. I've never been in that
Not
position,
advice,
but but so I've never been in that position by any means. But I've talked to a lot of people in that position, and I'm around a lot of those people, and I do what people should do, if you want to. So I learned from them. I said, what is it that they're not doing that I should be doing? And what that is for me today, and then I'll bring it up to the 5 pillars. What that is experimentation. Something I've struggled with for most of my life. I was very much a generalist. So, and I used to think that that's a detriment to my career, right? So because I was very generalized, so I had so many interests, and ever since I was 15, I worked, and I've had 2 jobs. I had at the same time. Sometimes I would study full time. I would do freelancing here. I've always done multiple things, and I used to think it's going to hurt me. Now I realize that that's where that's actually helped me thrive, because I'm able to not be tied to that one thing, and I'm able to explore, and I'm able to learn about myself through those things, leading to that career fulfillment. Experimentation, and not getting comfortable. And I think because I've never had that cushy corporate high-level paying jobs, it forced me almost, but also I enjoyed that part of continuously trying to figure out what else is there, what else can I do. So I'm pretty multifaceted from different lenses, and I create a unique dynamic for my career in my field in particular, because most people in my field are either trainers or they're coaches, etc. I do a lot of different things within that, and I bring a holistic approach. So with all that being said, is I think the best way to find out is, like, we don't know what we don't know, experimenting and doing things that are different, right? And I think that's the biggest thing, is like people get too stuck on like, this is what I know, this is what it is, and they don't take time to experiment. And the best part about all of this is that you can actually do it. Like, everybody has access to it. So the way I bring in the 5 pillars is that in order for you to be at your top best, right, when you don't know what to do, the best thing you can do is invest in yourself. So when you feel stuck, invest in yourself, invest in personal development, invest in mindset work. Maybe it's meditation. Some people swear by meditation. Maybe it's whatever personal development.
What do you mean
choice.
invest?
Invest meaning spend time in that. Invest your time. Invest the money if you have the money, right? Invest in your physical health. Invest in how you can optimize your health. I think
experiment through investing. So you go, let's say, either on your own, you read and try through time, or you actually have a coach or have a mentor or have someone and invest and
So I think those
experiment and see how it feels, and if it doesn't work, change and
I just think I think that we get stuck too much on doing what we've been doing, and we don't think about doing something different. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I'll steal something from John Sene. John Sene is a futurist. He talks a lot about kind of what do we need to do in order for us to stay relevant in business, for example.
Okay.
And what he brings is a good example of hardware and software. So you know how when you have an iPhone, right? Whenever you have an iPhone, it has a certain set of hardware, and then you have software that comes up to update every year. And so what's happening is that if you have an old hardware, the new software, there's not enough space to update.
True.
Right? And so I see this as, and humans as well, we're too busy trying to stuff software, so change, trying to figure out what we're going to do in life, trying to become whatever we need to become. And we forgot about the hardware, which is the 5 pillars. Us, essence of being humans, which is being at our top, health, mindset, making sure we have social connections, career fulfillment, and being on our nutrition game, which I can spend hours on each one alone. And so I think, and that's just what I feel is like, that's what it takes for us to be at our optimal performance level is that. And it's like working on that hardware. And I love that what he said in a little bit different context, but I feel like as humans, we're always trying to be more productive, or leaders in organizations. Everybody wants high performance. Everybody wants productivity. Everybody wants for people to be happy.
The story of unending growth, right?
Yeah, like everybody's just like, oh, I want my team to be X, Y, and Z. But are you as a leader that? Are you replacing your hardware? Are you unlearning things that you know that spend years learning, right? Just letting go of this idea that the societal norms that we put into place, that how your career should be. You know, if you're a CEO, now you have to act a certain way. Now you can't step away. Oh, but you've had a successful career. How do you step away? I think just getting to know yourself, again, through the 5 pillars.
What about the concept of golden handshakes? Handcuffs.
Oh, handcuffs. Yeah, I mean that's a whole thing for sure. But it's like what do you want to know about? Like what?
Because it's the concept of, you know, you talk to people at this level, you start talking to them about this, and to them this is all fluff, because it's, you know what, I know that I'm happy. Now you know that they're not happy because they started the conversation by exactly what you said, that, and you see them gaze. You know, it's like, oh, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm always swamped. I have 1,000 emails a day. People keep on calling me for every decision, and I don't have time for myself. And then once you start talking about your well-being, your mental health, your physical health, your personal peak performance at a satisfactory level to you, not to people, they start talking again about how, no, I've done it before. I know. And obviously they don't know, but they know. And that's the golden handcuffs, in the sense of no one is forcing them. Remember, they're at the highest echelons of corporate and society and in the professional world. So it's not like they're forced to do it. It's by choice, but the choice is so blinding that it's usually too late when they realize it. And that's when they're in their, let's say, early 60s, late 50s. And that's too late to go back and, to your point, unlearn. Because at that point in time, how do you, I mean, it's easier said than done, don't you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think what helps is to think about the cost of inaction. Like, what is it going to cost you if you don't make certain changes, whatever that is? And I mean, depending on what it is that makes them unhappy, I don't know, right? Like, this is a big discussion, and
True.
I'm not.
It's depending on each one of them.
Depending on each one, but I think just let's give an example of being healthier in general. Like, what's the cost of you not being? The biggest thing people say, I don't have time.
Yes.
I hate it. I hate that. Like, everybody has time. It's called priorities. You know, I've known people that have full-time jobs, full-time families, full-time MBA or doctor programs. They still make time to be at their top. From a health perspective, they still make time to meal prep. They still make time to do X, Y, and Z, optimize themselves, and so on. So priorities are essential, and understanding, if you don't do this thing, what is it going to cost you down the line? If you're not, you know, and again, I don't believe in balance. I don't believe in any of that, but it's like, you know, what are some micro things you can do to help you get healthier, if we're talking about health, right? And we're in this world right now, and I've gone through my own health journey, and I'm still going through it. We're in this world where, oh, you're tired. Oh, I'm tired too. Everybody's tired. It's normal to be tired. Oh, you need, you know, 5 cups of coffee to wake up, and then maybe something else in the evening to wind you down. That's normal. That's not normal. We've accepted what normal is. Oh, eating, you know, processed foods or going to a restaurant and eating out of a restaurant, it's normal. You know, that's a thing. It's not normal. That's not, you know, sitting at your desk all day. That's not normal. We've accepted certain norms that are not normal, and that is why we're more sick than ever before as population globally in general, especially in the US, in the UAE as well, right? Diabetes is very high here. Obesity is very high here, just like in the US. Loneliness is on the rise. Mental health is on the rise. All of these things contribute to living fulfilling lives. right? And so
General well-being.
general well-being, right? And we see this a lot in organizations. We see, I mean, healthcare costs for employers today because their staff are so on the border of burnout or burnt out. The claims, the healthcare claims in organizations, there's numbers associated with it. So I think just when you're thinking whether from an individual perspective or organizational or societal perspective, there are costs. There are costs there. Maybe we don't talk about it publicly. Maybe that's not what's in the media, right? But they're there. And in places like UAE, of course, we don't always know the full picture, the full numbers, right? In the US, everything's kind of in your face, more or less, if you want to look. So it's available. It's readily available. So I think the cost of inaction, right? The cost of inaction, and again, unlearning. Like, why are we doing this? Why? You know, it's not normal. Like, that's not how we should be operating as society, as humans, and as people, right? So I think just understanding that and educating yourself around that is where I would start, at least. And that's why I include the nutrition piece, because at least in the US right now, nutrition is it's never in our lives have we had such a food system that is just horrible, right? I mean, grateful to have food, all of that. Yes, aside from that, it is, you know, it's processed, etc. I think I was listening to something in the US back in the 70s. They had FDA approved like 700 ingredients that were allowed in the food supply. Today, it's 10,000. 10,000,
wow.
While in Europe and other parts of the world, it's still 700. So all the different dyes, all the Doritos, all the snacks, all the candy, all the colored.
Is it by default then approved everywhere in the world, or still?
No,
no.
In Europe it's only 700.
Okay.
But in the US, so in both places started with 700.
Right.
Now in the US it's 10,000. In Europe it's still 700. Like, it's still limited.
Me.
So and so there's a lot of that. But anyway, that's, I mean, we can go into like why that is, and the pharmaceuticals and the, you know, and the world of making money.
I think one word: greed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I think
But when it comes, so let me circle back to your point about you know, unlearning, and you know, let's start with that. So let's say now I know. How do I calculate the cost? I mean, you mentioned the cost of inaction, which is a powerful concept, right? But what if I think the cost of inaction is reversed? As in, if I don't do it, then I'm in a better place, because remember, I'm the CEO. I have, you know, 10,000 people under me. I have all of those kind of responsibilities, productivities. I have, you know, and if I stop that and do what I have to do, which is the action, then it's reverse. What if that's my mindset? What do you think? I think you should just stay with that mindset. Honestly, I mean, you know what I mean. Then you're not there. Nobody's here to convince. I mean, nobody's there to convince anybody of anything. I think everybody should do what's best for them, what they feel is right with the information they have right now, what they feel is right for them today in this moment. And if that changes a year from now, that's fine. But make sure you're doing it with awareness. Make sure you understand why you're doing it. And you're not doing it because of the golden handcuffs or because you like to be up there and because it's ego driven, because it is, you know, it's because you like that status and so on. But I love the idea of when you go to sleep at night or when you look yourself in the mirror, what goes through your mind? Yeah.
Because everybody, you know, we can be very busy. We're very distracted as people in general. And especially if you're a senior leader and you're going and you're driving the nice cars and you've reached all your, you know, all the successes as society has, you know, deemed to be successful and so on. And it's continuously reinforced. Oh, Osama, you're doing amazing and what, da. But when you go to sleep and that conversation that you have with yourself, or if you can't go to sleep because you can't stop thinking about X, Y, and Z.
Or you wake up 2 a.m. in the morning just so you can't go back to sleep.
Exactly. Or you're dealing with anxiety, you don't know what it is. Or, you know, your relationship is suffering. Maybe you don't have a good relationship with your spouse or your kids. You don't see your kids. You didn't spend that time with them, whatever it may be. Or your health is suffering and you know that. Or whatever it may be. We wear a lot of masks. And I think that mask comes off when we are at nighttime, when we're going to bed. If you're not, of course, taking a Xanax or you're cheating and you're having a drink or you're taking a Xanax or whatever it is to help you go to sleep. So that's a big
but
thing.
That's also an indicator.
That's an indicator. That's a symptom, right? Like that's a symptom that something is wrong. Like, and we don't listen to symptoms that our body sends. We give it a medicine, so to say, in different forms, right? And we numb it down. We numb down that because to deal with it is catastrophic in many cases. To deal with it is life-changing in many cases. To admit that we have lived our life a certain way and we've reached a level that we're supposed to be successful inside of it that we're not, which I don't know why. I don't know why I don't understand why it's so hard to say, you know what, like, I think I don't want to do this anymore. Or you know what, this last 10 years, that was a mistake. Like what's the wrong with saying that? Like, what is wrong with saying it? Because nobody really cares or something. Like, nobody's going to remember. The only people that are going to remember are people around you and you and the future you. I think we think that people care about us more than they do. Nobody cares. Like,
That's absolutely
you know what I'm
true.
saying? Like,
yeah.
nobody really cares.
That's very powerful. Yeah, I think if if someone is listening to this and he was so delusional to the point that he thinks that, you know what, I've made it, I don't need this. Okay, let's see, 10 p.m. You're on your bed. Are you able to sleep, or is something else is keeping you up at night? So are you waking up at night and just, you know, not able to go back to sleep because of how your mind, you're not being true to yourself? Do you have problems with your personal life, your spouse, your kids? Do you have health issues? Like whether it's mental health issues, whether it's physical health issues, whether it's, you know, are you on meds for whatever reason, right? So if you answer yes to one or multiple of those, then this is how you know there's a cost to inaction.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Absolutely. And, you know, but the person has to get to that. It's like, you know, when everything's going well in life and we're just like, we don't think about anything, like we're just everything's great. But when you're sick, the only thing you want to be is to be healthy.
Yes.
Right. So everything comes in perspective. Why do we have? Because we're reactive. I always say, like, even in organizations, the way we make decisions around business is reactive. Around people is reactive. It's not proactive. Like, why do we have to get to a point where we're sick, or you know, or our business is failing for us to make a change, or our marriage is failing, so we have to fix our relationship? Why do we have to be reactive instead of proactive? And I think, again, like, going back to the basics of being human and taking care of the physical, the mindset, it's all connected,
Yes.
right? Like the nutrition piece, because all the illnesses start in the gut. 80% of illnesses start in the gut. There's more nerves in the gut than anywhere else in the system. The gut talks to the brain. Your cognitive function affects the trillions of bacteria that hang out in your gut. So just educating yourself on these basics and understanding why you feel the way that you feel and listening to yourself, I think that's where it's at. And it's so simple and it's so accessible. But I think the biggest thing is just, it's the fear of change. It's the fear of change, is because sometimes when you realize certain things, whether, you know, where you're not happy in your marriage, or you're not happy in your job, you have to change. And then a lot of things around you fall apart. You have to change environments sometimes. Sometimes you have to, go through finance struggles, whatever it means. So change is hard. And that's scary for many people. And a lot of times we don't know where to start. And I think that's why more people are willing to wait till their 70s or 80s, and on their deathbed, they go back and they're like, oh, I should have done X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I don't want to be those people, because in my work, I have a lot of people that come to me at midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And that's when they want to talk to me. It's like, okay, I'm successful, I'm X, Y, and Z. I'm not satisfied, or I want to change my career because I realized I just gave my soul to a job I really didn't care about, and so on. And so I think through that, I've learned a lot of what not to do. So
yeah, it's so I'll tell you what, this is very powerful, Lena. I mean, the way people can get awareness, because I always, you mentioned something, which is you don't know what you don't know, and obviously these things, you know. I mean, you know, you're on your own, you're driving, you're stuck in traffic, no one is around you, you know. There's no need for, you can't put a mask when you look at the mirror. You can't. It's not even physically possible. So now they know. Let's go through the 5, you call it 5-pillar framework that you have. Let's go through those. So let's say now they're ready, they want to inflict change, they understand the cost of inaction. What do they do?
So I would look into, obviously some people can be in amazing physical shape. So I would just look at those 5 and look at where you want to start. What is like the biggest pain point for you? So whichever one you want to go through, and we'll kind of go through all of this. And it's funny, I want to mention something, because you mentioned about sitting in traffic. And I think another symptom I see with people is when you have a crazy road rage.
Yeah, short temper. Yeah.
You snap. All that. That is not because that person,
That's
because of the traffic.
A dozen.
There are a lot of issues that are coming. Like I always
I
say,
feel sorry for them.
I do too.
Honestly, when someone is just driving, I was like, you know what, just go. I'm really sympathetic. I'm really, really sympathetic, because you're driving a G63 or a BMW X6 or whatever, and you're really raging in the road. I mean, what type of life are you living? It's just sad.
Yeah, it's a symptom. It's a symptom, and I do feel bad, because it's just it's anyway, let's not spend time on that. But it is a symptom of an unfulfilled life.
Yes.
I don't know anybody who's content, fulfilled, and happy to an extent, right? Not 100%.
That can be triggered.
That can be triggered so easily.
Yes.
The emotional control is not there, which is, etc. So nervous system is through the roof. And so it's all of these. And I think people don't understand that. They just think like, oh, it's traffic and it's normal. And it's not. It's literally your body saying, something. I need to let out this anger, and I'm gonna let it out at the person
it's
who
an
is.
Avenue.
It's an avenue to let out the anger. But anyway, so that's the same. So let's go back to the 5 pillars. So the 5 pillars are around how do you, what is the way to optimize and how it relates to overall you figuring out what you want to do. So on the physical aspect, if you're somebody who is exercising great, but there's always room for improvement. On physical aspect, just understanding that sleep is one of the most important aspects of everything how we function, right? So now there's a lot of research. I forgot the guy's name, but the sleep doctor, I forgot his name. He's a famous sleep doctor. He does research around sleep. And now we have the Oura rings and all these trackable devices where you can actually track your recovery levels, right? So sleep is very important. I don't have a specific number. I think most people kind of agree that it's just about what makes you feel at your best. But we know for a fact that if you don't sleep well for you don't get that deep rest sleep for a number of days, you're not going to be at your top performance. More accidents happen when you don't sleep well, right? Like when you're driving, like people usually sleep deprived, so on. Cognitively, you're not there. Your emotional state is, much more triggering, let's say. You get angry more, etc. So understanding mood swings and all of that. And I think that understanding, I think checking in with your sleep, like if I were to start anywhere is like, how's your sleep? Do you feel refreshed? Do you wake up refreshed? Because change is difficult. And whenever we talk about, change, if you don't get these 5 pillars straight, you're going to struggle with that change. So it makes everything in alignment with your human needs.
Yes.
And so sleep is one. Another thing is physical health, right? And I'm not talking about CrossFits or anything, just basic physical movements. How much do you move throughout the day? Now we're all maybe not in the UAE, but in the US, many people working remotely. We're sitting at our desks all day. And if you don't have a standing desk, you're literally sitting on your butt. And if you don't make time to stand up, you're basically shutting down your body. So your metabolism slows down for every hour that you sit. A lot of bodily functions just slow down. And every hour that you sit, 21 minutes gets taken off your lifespan on average. Not for everybody, but on average in general. So that's a big indicator.
That's a scary proposition, isn't it?
That's scary. Your everything slows down when you sit, and we're not meant for that. So if you go back to our ancestors and so on, we're hunters and gatherers. We're out there. We're going out, right? We are waking up at sunrise. We're finishing at sunset and so on. So even the sleep cycle is
circadian rhythm is just
the circadian rhythm kind of kicks in. Something new I learned recently, which ties into sleep, is people that are completely blind often have insomnia because their circadian rhythm doesn't kick in.
Oh, wow.
And they have to take insomnia medication. I had a gentleman on my podcast. He's blind and he's completely blind. He does a lot of work for people with blindness in a workplace and how to incorporate that, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, and that was really interesting that I learned. And I was like, oh, that makes sense, because now a lot of research around sleep is when you wake up in the morning. So sleep doesn't happen when you go to sleep. Your preparation for sleep starts in the morning. So in the morning when you wake up, you should, like Dr. Andrew Huberman from Huberman Labs, that's what he talks about as well. And when my guest told me about the blind, I was like, that makes complete sense. So you wake up in the morning, you expose yourself to the sun, because the sun, when it gets into your eyes, right, obviously in a safe way and so on,
of course,
it kicks in your circadian rhythm. So, and that's how you start. And even if you're, in the US now, it's about to be fall time, so sun's not going to come out till 8 a.m. I wake up at 5. So I have, it's like 7 a.m. the sun comes up. So I have 2 hours of darkness. So even exposing yourself to artificial light in the beginning is also good to kind of get you to wake up. And then after that, when we go to sleep, when we're starting to wind down as well, in the evening time, also obviously there's things that you should do. And I'm not a sleep doctor, but basically check your sleep. The physical movement, find a way to move throughout the day, right? So these are the basics. Also, another thing is around understanding how your body's functioning. So now the beautiful part is we have a lot of tests. Like I told you recently, I did this bioenergetic test, which is around really understanding how all my systems operate. So like your nervous system, your cardio system, and so on. So doing these basic tests, which doctors usually do not do, also although your insurance will cover it in most cases. So really just understanding how you can advocate for yourself at your doctors and doing the necessary blood work, doing the necessary tests to see the biomarkers and all of that to see how your body is operating. Because when you feel tired, when you feel
especially
when you
if
can't
you feel
sleep,
tired all the time, you can't sleep.
You can't sleep. Sometimes it's a supplement issue. Sometimes it's a
something
supplement.
Is missing
something is missing from your food, from your diet, or sometimes you need a supplement because going back to the diet that we have, it's not great. So you're not always going to have that.
Or your exposure to sun is not much, so vitamin D and others.
Exactly. Okay. So, and most people are deficient in something, and that's a big aspect of physical health. It's also, for females in particular, hormone health is very important. So I think optimizing on your physical health is everything. And I mean, for myself, like I've quit caffeine, I've cut out a lot of different things. And I feel a difference. So I recommend for everybody, that's with all the tests that are available.
To quit coffee?
No, not to quit coffee.
Okay.
No. Now everybody's going to hate me.
I lost a couple of subscribers
I know, just now. I don't mean to quit coffee. I mean, do a test to help you recognize what is right for your body.
If it has a negative effect on you.
What has if something has a negative effect on you that you're eating, drinking, exposures, etc. Something is definitely, we all have something. And you just need to check and make sure from all sides.
The knowledge and awareness of what makes you tick.
Exactly. So get to know your body.
Right.
Get to know your body so you can advocate for your body. So I think that is the most important. So anyway, moving on to the mindset.
So sleep and physical and diet obviously is, or
diet
is not, it's different.
We'll go to the nutrition piece in a minute.
So physical, which is the exercise and sleep, that sort
and
of
just
system.
your body, like your functions, like how is your body functioning? Because the thing is that especially when we're young, right, we don't feel our bodies, but inside, and that's what I've learned a lot about this, is that inside, things are happening right now to both of us. We don't recognize, but we have a whole ecosystem inside our bodies that is then usually by the age of 40 or 45 starts to come out as illnesses, starts to come out as heart attacks, all this chronic stress that we go to that we say is normal, but it doesn't happen overnight. And we hear this a lot, right? Like, oh, we don't know the cause of this, but we know that a lot of things that happen is from gut health and stress.
It's the delayed effect of something that's happening over a period of time.
Because you didn't keep track. You didn't check in with how your body is doing internally.
You weren't aware of the indicators and the kind of symptoms, like you mentioned, over time for many, many years.
Yeah, or sometimes you won't even have symptoms until you do blood work. Or until you do preventive care.
Well, you might have some. I mean, if you're not able to sleep well, if you're tired, if you're yawning at 9 a.m. in the morning, then that's, to me, it's a slight symptom. It's not kind of life-threatening, but it makes me wonder, like, why am I yawning at 9 a.m.?
Yeah.
It's still early, and I supposed to be energetic at my peak performance.
Yeah. So, and then the mindset piece, I think, is very important. We are in this victimhood mindset as a society.
So second is mindset.
Second is mindset.
Okay.
So checking in with your mindset, right? And going back to somebody who is, maybe unhappy, but not willing to make a change. So like, why is it? I really understand.
So let's go back to the what. What is mindset?
Mindset is, that's a great question. I don't know the specific definition, but I'll tell you how I define it.
From your perspective, I mean, your opinion to it.
Mindset
not academically or scientifically.
Mindset for me is how you perceive things, is how you process information. So an example would be, do you see a challenge as an opportunity or a threat? Do you see a problem as an opportunity to, create something new?
I love that.
Or are you a person who is only focusing on problems instead of solutions? That's a mindset. There's a lot of people that see a problem with everything and a lot of people who see solutions.
An opportunity.
So, and I used to...
So it's your interpreter to the events that takes place around you. So as you go in life, you see things, you receive things. What meaning you make from those events is your mindset. That engine, the lens that you see the world around you through, is your mindset.
Yeah, that's how I would define it.
I like that.
When I was younger, in my 20s, this is a fun fact. I don't think I've ever said this out loud. But my friends used to call me complainer. Elena the complainer. Elena the complainer, because I used to complain all the time.
Right.
And I don't even know where it came from. It could be the Russian culture. It's in Russia.
And it rhymes. Oh,
I know. That's why they gave me this. Elena the complainer.
Me.
Like nothing was right, and I would just outsource all the power to, no, it's not me, or it's, why is this happening? So I would always complain about things, only to realize that I'm the problem and I actually need to change my mindset.
When did you realize that?
Mid
Do you remember?
mid-20s.
Mid-20s. Oh, you
Mid-20s.
remember?
Yeah, mid-20s.
What happened?
You start to recognize that the people you're surrounded in, like I remember I was sitting, I think it was like a party or something. I was sitting at a party and I was around people that were not people you want to be around. And for some reason I had this moment and I said, this cannot be my people. Like this cannot be my surroundings. This cannot be my environment. I don't belong here. And how did I get here? And when I started looking back and peeling all those different layers back, and I say, oh, like the common denominator of all these things is me. So I've allowed certain things. I've allowed people into my life. I've allowed certain friendships. And I realized that the good people didn't really want to be around me. And that made me realize, I was like,
and that's the mindset sort of shift. That's the paradigm shift that happened in your mind at that point in time. Because you were the magnet that in time, whatever you're attracting will create will reach a critical mass that will allow you to see it at a point in time. And then when that tip happens, then and you were lucky enough that it happened early on in the 20s.
Yeah, and so like in my mid-20s it happened, and talking about change and fear, one of the things that I had to do, I actually moved cities, and I spent probably a good year just alone. I mean, I was working, I had colleagues and blah, 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 but I spent a lot of time alone because I knew at that time I had to become a better version of me. I don't know how I knew it, honestly. It could have been just, that's when the personal development world starts opening up. So, and we see a lot of those people coming out and talking about different topics.
And there is also an element of luck. I mean, there's
an element for sure. There's an element of luck, God, universe, whatever you believe in, there's something there for sure. Like some kind of guidance from higher powers or whatever it is. And so I think there's that, and I was always grateful to recognize that because I see a lot of people recognize it way later in life.
Yes.
And I think from that point onwards,
those are unlucky.
Yeah, and I from that point onwards, I really just wanted to invest, and that's when my personal development journey started. And it took me years to actually, like I'm always on it. I feel like I'm continuously, but at least now I know who I am. I feel like you
have an inner self-awareness.
Yeah, I have an inner self-awareness. I'm my own worst critic. I know all the good and the bad and the ugly about myself.
You're able to kind of objectively look at you, reflect and point out the flaws, critique and develop to be a better person as time moves on. So every day you're able to do that. You don't give yourself a pat on the back and, you know what, no, it's okay, and excuses, and it's not my fault, and victim.
Yeah, no, I take full accountability for all the good, the bad, and the ugly that happens to me today. I take full accountability for that. It's not, I'm sure I'm not 100%, nobody's perfect, so, but I always say 85% is kind of where I operate.
At least you aim for that.
That's my aim, yeah, and I'm very good at asking for feedback. I see feedback as a privilege. And I think for leaders as well, that's very hard to do, is to ask for feedback. And that's why a lot of, and if you don't open that up, that's why we have a lot of workplaces that are just not psychologically safe to be able to say what you want, say your ideas, share your ideas.
There's a lot of apple polishers around those big leaders, people who just want to kind of make sure that they present the best face for them in front of them. So they're always skeptic of, okay, are you saying the right thing? Are you saying the truth? Or are you just trying to suck up to me because I'm the boss? Or I'm
Exactly. And I always say, like, a symptom of that is how quiet are your meetings as a leader. So are your meetings really quiet and you're just giving out directions, or are your meetings people sharing ideas, they're sharing concerns, they're sharing thoughts, and so on.
And they're objecting and
they're objecting, yeah. And obviously in a constructive way. Professional way, yeah.
Of course.
And so that's a symptom, and that's a symptom in your life as well. Like, do you have a bunch of people that are yay sayers? Do you have real friends that give you feedback, or are friends just like, they just accept anything from you, or do they check you when you need to be checked, right? So I think so feedback is a privilege, and I think that helps with your mindset as well, because because it's a privilege. I'm gonna leave it at that.
So that's the mindset. So this is how first you, because I don't want to go too technical, but the epistemology of knowledge. So what to know first, and then how to know. So the mindset itself, if you don't know what you're looking for, anything can get you there. So the mindset is, okay, see yourself, how you're just interpreting things, how you're reacting to things. If there are multiple symptoms, see what's the common denominator across all of those symptoms, and then see how the meaning that you make from these events that takes place around you in real time And that's your mindset. Doesn't matter. It's no value judgment there, no good or bad, no evaluative, nothing. Just this is your mindset, the way you see things. If you're driving down a highway and someone cuts you off and you got upset, there's a mindset. That's a feedback that came. There's an interpreter that then send a signal to your whatever that allowed you to or made you angry or reactive in this way. That is the mindset inside. Mm-hmm. And that's the lens that allowed you to see. If you're if you did not react, if you're like, it's fine, maybe he didn't see or whatever, I'm not going to get triggered, then that's also your mindset that allowed you to interpret that event in this way, which allowed you to behave and react in that way. And then because you're the center of everything that happened, you have all the data in real time, all the time. Mm-hmm. So pay attention to your mindset.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think a big part to finish up on the mindset is the empathy. Because when you're driving or when you're in, let's say a colleague comes in and they're not in the best of moods, and the first thing we think is, what did we do? Did we do something? Or your spouse comes home and they're not happy. You automatically think, oh my God, they're going to divorce me. What did I do? Etc. You go through worst case scenarios because we think that people care about that. We think that we impact others more than we do. And a good question I learned to ask myself is, what else can it be? And that allows me to then be more empathetic with people around me and allows me to not take things personally, which helps me maintain my emotional state, make sure my triggers are not activated because everybody has triggers, and make sure that I'm not getting angry back at them and I'm not reciprocating their energy and I'm maintaining my energy that is true to me. Is like, what else can it be? And I think empathy is a big aspect of mindset as well, not only to others, but also with yourself.
Both of us being professionals in the business world, as much as empathy is important, and it's actually the most instrumental, how do I say it? I would say behavior or mindset or ability to connect with others. I hate that word.
The empathy?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like empathy and innovation. Those two words, I hate them because it's been devalued so many times that it lost its true meaning. I mean, what's empathy in the most substantive way, in your opinion?
Empathy, it's a good, it is an overused word for sure. It does lose, I think empathy is still a strong
100%.
factor for me. Yeah, but I get your point.
It's the strongest. I'll tell you what, it's the only way that I use all the time, especially with people who borderline disrespect me even, right? Because if I don't have empathy towards them, then it's really difficult for me to actually process that event, that situation while it's happening. I used to work at the events industry for the longest period of time. And if anyone you kind of scratch the surface of the events industry, they know the amount of stress that people go through just, remotely related to the events industry. So imagine if you're the show director of one of the biggest shows in the world, and it's just crazy, right? And if I don't have empathy, there's no way on earth you'll be able to navigate through that. That's why anytime there's a leadership course, the first thing is emotional intelligence and empathy, right? But what I'm trying to say is the meaning at the popular business domains and professional domains is lost. It's like people talk about it. It's like, I care about your work-life balance. And by the time you're leaving, it's like on time, your boss comes to you and tells you, why are you leaving early? Okay, but work-life balance, that means it doesn't have a meaning. Similarly, empathy. Yeah. But then the actual relationships and the way people behave around each other almost have zero empathy.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of, when you say something
over and over again, it loses its meaning. I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, for me, empathy is just understanding that everybody's going through something that you don't know. And understanding that everybody's on their own journey that you have no idea about, and not to assume. So that's what I think. That's how I see empathy for me. It's not just like understanding other people's feelings that are done. Like it's that.
I like that. I like that. Put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah,
right?
like put yourself in their shoes, but also like understand that you probably couldn't handle being in their shoes as well.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So I think again, you don't know what's going on with the person next to you. You cannot imagine, and it's probably not what you think it is. So it's like when people come to me, for coaching and stuff like that, they'll start with problem A, it's actually here. the root cause, what they actually came for is like way down there, right? So, and it's because we usually try to tackle the easiest things up top, but it's actually something else. So I think just being open to that. But let's move on to social connections.
Yes, yes, yes.
Social connections is something that I've included because we are more lonely than ever before as a society. Although we're more connected than ever before. As
So after mindset is social connections.
Social connections.
Okay,
Yeah.
so your
physical
relationship with others.
mindset
Yeah.
and social connections. We're social creatures. We're social beings. We grew up in tribes and communities, right?
Yes.
Like it takes a village to raise a child. It came from somewhere. It truly does. And now we have this society. And I used to play in that space very much, like in that mindset where I used to say, strong, independent woman. That was my whole thing. I'm a strong, independent. I don't need nobody. I don't need no man. I don't need anything. I'm a strong, independent woman. I want to focus on my career. I want to grow my business. I don't need a family. And I used to, and I neglected.
That was your mindset.
That was my mindset, like when I was through my different transitions, right?
Where did this come from? Popular culture, movies.
I think so. So on the surface level, that on a deeper level, me as individual, insecurities. So it came from me, my need to be independent so that I don't have to rely on anybody because I've been let down, because I don't like to ask for help, because I don't like to be vulnerable back then. I didn't ask for help. I didn't share some of the biggest challenges I went through in my life because I don't want people to look at me as weak.
How did this work out for you?
Not very well. So, I mean, I didn't, one, it made me really strong and it made me learn how to deal with everything that I've gone through. But also, I didn't have to do that to myself. I could have had people that could support me if I just asked for help or if I shared with my friends what I was going through. But I never did that. I kept it to myself and it alienated people as well. So because people would always see me as somebody who is strong and somebody who is on her game, not knowing that my life in the background was falling apart. So I felt like I was being unauthentic because I would talk to, people would come to me. And I also noticed that sometimes they almost didn't open up to me because they felt like I am not going to appreciate where they're coming from because I am always like, strong, independent and like nothing phases me type thing. So I had this mask, but really I'm like the most sensitive person and so on and so on. So I've made a conscious decision in my early 30s, in particular, to invest in friendships and spend time with friends and prioritize friends, prioritize relationships, spending time with my family, and just understanding like that's a big part of who I am, and I want to prioritize it. Same thing with relationships. I think there's a lot of social media push right now for the strong, independent. This is what I do as a single female at 35, or this is my day.
It's proliferating even more now.
That's even more now, exactly. So, and I don't think it's a good message. I think suicide rates among teenagers in the U.S. in particular, but also in the GCC countries, is very high. We just don't report them here as much as they do in the U.S. But it's happening. It's happening all over the world. And Japan is the same thing. Loneliness is a pandemic. We are, divorce rates are through the roof and so on. And I think subconsciously it's those messagings that are affecting us because we think that we can scroll through social media and one time we'll see a post about puppies, and the next time it's the single independent female, and the next time it's the culture of the transit culture of the hustle culture, whatever it is, and we think it's not impacting us, but it does. Because we're, it's all going through our minds. So when I see something, that information is going somewhere. Sometimes it's just in and out, but a lot of times it stays in the back of our minds. And I think also in certain societies and cultures, there's also a lot of push to like how things should be, and there's a lot of, again, that collective mindset, if you want to call it that, of what's normal and so on. Like in the US, for example, there's a big divide between people who are more traditional versus people that are non-traditional, right? People, so, and it's like
liberals and conservatives.
Yeah, so it's a huge, it's a whole, it's almost like a political thing. It's political.
It's politicized.
It's politicized, yeah. And I think just being mindful of, again, going back to when you go to sleep at night, are you happy being alone Are you happy even if you are a wealthy female or male or whatever? It's like, are you happy? Are you truly happy being alone? Is this going to satisfy? Is this going to be okay 10, 15 years from now? Is that, you know what I mean? Like, who is going to be around you when you don't have anybody, essentially, right? When all of that facade falls away. And are you actually investing in those relationships? Or are you the person that people want to be around? Are you the person that somebody wants to marry or, you know, be a partner, whatever that looks like for you? But just making sure that you're making those decisions, not because subconsciously it registered for you from social media or
Because of whatever the media has normalized.
It's because you actually want that lifestyle and you understand the costs that come with that. There's a cost for everything. There's a cost for, I mean, the cost of having a family sometimes is deprioritizing other things, right? So, you know, might not be, you know, especially as a woman for, you know, as much as we want to see, you know, as much as we want to say women can do it all, there's just certain biological things that require us to do, to be, to have certain roles as mothers and so on.
Yeah.
So as caretakers, it's just what it is. And people, you know, obviously everybody has their own opinion about that, but that's where I stand. And so I think, so understanding that social connections, right? And that goes to not only in our individual life, but also in our work life, right? You don't need to be friends with people, but from a leadership perspective, you need to make sure that people spend time together. They spend time together in terms of having those sessions for creativity, for innovation, something getting out of their cubicles, so to say, getting out of their remote offices and coming together, building those relationships, bouncing ideas off of each other, because we know that when you have a friend at work, you're much more likely to stay. When you have positive relationships,
true friend, not just a colleague.
like just a friend. Yeah, I mean, or, you know,
someone you truly enjoy for them,
exactly.
not because, what do you call it? Not just a resource in a project of the work that you have.
Yeah. So you have some kind of relationship with those people, right? So I think, you know, having those relationships at work is also important. But in order for you to have that, you also obviously need to know how to build those relationships, not only in your personal life, but etc. So I think just as people, we are.
What's that one skill set that they need to have to be able to build those relationships?
If I had to pick one.
Yeah.
Can I pick two?
Let's start
okay,
with
one.
Let's start with
I'll
one.
do one.
Yeah.
Vulnerability.
Interesting.
I'd pick that one.
I was thinking you're gonna say attentive listening, but I like vulnerability more.
My other one would have been asking good questions. So okay. I'll tell you about that.
Yeah.
But vulnerability, because if you're not, and I've noticed this in my, like when I used to be like a wall, a brick wall that can handle anything, but then cry in the background by myself, people don't open up. And so I think that the beauty of sharing your story and being, again, authentic, but in order for you to do that, you need to know yourself. You need to be okay with whatever criticism comes with you opening up, because there's somebody's always going to criticize something you say.
You need to have a skin of a crocodile.
Yeah, but that skin, you build that skin by being honest with yourself and knowing, you know, just being honest, being secure in yourself. Exactly. That you know, etc. So I think being vulnerable, because when you open up to people.
So let me ask you a question here, and this is not we're not digressing. It's like the same, but it's a thought. So I have, you know, many female friends and, you know, colleagues, and one time I was with a really dear friend of mine, and you know, no judgment at all. It's reality. I'm a very pragmatic person. Like the amount of makeup she puts on is kind of, in my standards, a lot. Mm-hmm. Could be normal. I don't know, right? I'm not judging based on it. I'm just saying my opinion. So we had that discussion. And I asked her, why do you do that? Now, obviously, we're at a certain, you know, relationship from a friendship perspective. We're able to have that discussion. So I asked her, why do you do that? And she said, oh, no, you're thinking I'm doing it for X and Y. No, I'm doing it for me. Like, I didn't judge. I'm just asking why. I didn't ask for who. Because to me...
She just gave you an answer, though.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, but there is that. So, and obviously there's an element of strong, independent woman. And obviously there's this kind of mindset around that woman. So what do you feel about this type of behavior? And obviously there's the male side of things as well. I mean, I have friends who are in their 40s who, when I ask them, why aren't you married? And it's like, I don't need to be married. Why would I need to be married? And it's like, what happens when you're 80? You have no kids, you have no, you know, partner, you have, you know, do you expect your friends to be around you when you need them? I mean, it doesn't work that way. And you're not doing it for that, obviously. It's not transactional. But I mean, that's the meaning of life. Happiness is about relationship with people. And if you're not cultivating it over the years for a lifetime, you don't expect it to happen when you're 70, 80, or even 60, and for some reason, for whatever reason, you got sick and you need someone to kind of be with you. What do you expect then? And that's the cost that you mentioned, I mean, of inactivity. But to them, they don't see that side of life. I don't know. What do you feel about that?
I think I'll just go back to, do you? I don't know. I mean, I have my opinions about it, but I'm also.
I'd love to hear. I'm interested
my
in your
opinion.
opinions.
I think I've also learned that. It's just maybe it goes back to empathy, but it's like I don't know what goes through or why they do what they do, and I think
obviously there's a reason.
Yeah,
right?
there's a reason. Yeah, and
but that like you said, it's like I mean, I don't want to be a shrink or psychotherapist who goes into them, but I'm interested just because obviously we're doing this program for people to be aware of things. So I'm sure someone somewhere is listening to this. So yeah, exactly. So it's not me. It's not. Let me put it in another way. It's not my curiosity that drove me to ask that question. It's just my interest in the individual himself, right? And that goes into the relationship because it's not just taking; it's also sometimes giving. So, what's your thoughts?
Well, like on the person, for example, who is like, oh, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't need that.
Yeah.
Like why or like what should they do about it? Like what do you
is that? I mean, that's a mindset, right? And you mentioned the mindset element. So how is that mindset? Remember, we talked about the mindset as the element. Now, social and mindset are obviously tightly integrated because if you have that mindset, how is your social life going to be?
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it's I think it just comes down to, but I think also it's like part of it is the environment that they're in. So sometimes if they are, and I mean, good for you that you are, if you personally, it's hard for me to be friends that are not open or vulnerable. You know what I mean? So I think just, I would ask those people, like, look around and who's around you and who are you attracting? And I think, and if you're okay with who are you attracting, then like, who are we to say anything, right? So like everybody comes to their own conclusion and, everybody has their own life to live. And sometimes some people, I mean, they die that way and that's okay. Like that's their life,
Their choice. Yeah.
It's their choice. It's all about choices, but I think it's just, again, it's hard to change a mindset. Like something drastic has to happen to a person for them to change the mindset. So it's
a major shock of some sort.
Some sort of shock, like something has to happen. Or some kind of awareness, but it has to be, the door has to be open. So if the door is closed, it's very difficult to, or they're the unlucky ones, I guess I should say, and I think just, I really think when I hear these kind of stories, I think it's just people that need to deal with whatever it is that's getting them to act that way, because it's not the norm. I don't want to say normal. It's not the natural human state to be closed off.
Yes.
It's not the natural human state to be closed off.
That goes back to vulnerability, right?
It goes back to vulnerability. It's not natural. We are tribal beings.
Yeah.
We're not meant to be alone. And I think it's comfortable to be in that space because it's the comfort zone. Because again, fear, like, you have to open
but
up.
Momentarily, probably, not as a lifestyle or as a mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the longest research in history, which is about happiness, right?
The Harvard one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Number one is social relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which ties back to your point about, how we live in tribal societies, and the only way to attract people meaningfully is to be vulnerable around each other in the most obviously dignified way, but still in the most meaningful and, how do I say it, sincere way.
Yeah. And some people just not ready to share that. Some people are not ready to be vulnerable.
Yeah, it's organic.
Yeah,
it's not like it at this time you have to do it. No, it's very organic, but as long as you know, right?
Yeah, but then if you're friends with somebody and you're not able to be vulnerable, then what's the point?
This is a very interesting point, a very, very interesting point. And I say it's interesting because I'm always in a dilemma. Whenever I'm near someone who is whatever it is that I absolutely want to be away from, not as an individual, but as a character traits, right? If anyone who is like you and I have strong inner self-awareness on a continuous self-development path, they're always eager to be stressed in a meaningful way so they can grow, get away from this type of people, then those people will never have anyone to influence them to actually make change, don't you think?
Well, here's the thing. So I heard something a long time ago, and part of why I spend a lot of time alone is that, and that's the beauty of the world we live in today. You do not need to have mentors or people you can learn from that
True.
are in person.
True.
And what I've done in that my year of just like being on my own, more or less, is I've just done a lot of I've listened to podcasts. I've read biographies. That's my favorite thing to do, is to read biographies, because you realize nobody knows what they're doing and everybody's just kind of going through life and so on. And I think that sometimes in order for you to be around certain people, because to your point, like I'm very selective about the energy that I bring around me here, the things that I do, the top people I talk to, etc. So, and the likelihood is that I'm also not a charity, and I don't want you to come and trauma dump on me all the things and all, there's no point. So that sometimes that means that person has to spend time doing their own inner work, and they can spend time, reading books, doing their programs, etc., observing others, podcasts, a beautiful way to listen. So it's like sometimes you can, when I listen to podcasts, like this one, there's two people talking, I feel like I'm in the room with them.
Yes.
I feel like I'm having a conversation. I feel like I have a friend that I'm talking to.
True.
So I think that's sometimes where you have to be. You have to elevate yourself in order for them.
But if they're in that state, they don't know. I mean, I'll tell you a small story. The other day, I had a friend of mine here. He's from the States. He's an extreme, like the extremist left you can think of, right? Like not just woke, like new type of woke, right? And I enjoy being with them only because of, obviously, my mindset works in a weird way. Like it's someone who's an exact opposite. I kind of engage, but in a meaningful way, not in a debate way. So I don't debate. But anyway, so we opened his YouTube and he was showing me something, and I looked at his YouTube feed and I looked at his podcast, and it was absolutely nothing of what I have. You know how the algorithm works, right? So you think when he's alone that, he can go and search. But then obviously, I mean, I'm guilty. 90% of the time, I don't search for things. It just pops up into my mind now in front of me. Now I'm lucky because I listen to Andrew, the Human Lab. I listen to Lex Friedman. I listen to, so those are the ones. So by definition, all of those sort of philosophers, scientists, educators, thinkers come to me because this is the people that the algorithm decided that I'm part of as a group. But he doesn't. So being alone now is even more detrimental because you can't think for your own. The world is, the algorithm gods are doing the thinking for you. You know what I mean?
Yep,
like it's crazy.
It is crazy, yeah. And I mean, you have to be, good examples in the US, with everything so right and left. If you don't check, if you're only watching CNN or only watching Fox News, you're going to have your opinions about, and so I think we have to be really careful about what we consume.
But that's the word. You have to be careful. But if you're in that state, you wouldn't know. Unless you have someone like you and I who probably either engage
I see your point.
Push back.
I see your point, but also we can't save everybody.
But
like it's not,
you know what I'm saying? Like
it's not my, it's not that's not my job. It's not anybody's job.
True.
You need to take
personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility. I always say that
I'm all for that.
In today's exposure and access to information,
there's no excuse.
There's no excuse.
I know.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, put into Google, what can I be doing better? I don't know. Talk to ChatGPT. I don't know. The basics, but that's what people don't do, right? Like it's.
I think it goes back to critical thinking.
Yeah.
Right. So the element of critical thinking is not as matured and elevated across everyone as we want it to be, and therefore people are not able to. I mean, the other day I was just listening to Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson's debate on stage. It's an older one. But then, because of the way my mind works, I'm extremely analytical and structured in the way I think of things and perceive things, not just articulate things. Like, it's a 10-minute clip. In the 10-minute clip, both of them made at least probably 50 assumptions that no one questioned. And I'm like, those are the top echelons of the thinkers and philosophers. How they didn't even ask about, okay, so you built an argument now that is really a complicated way, complicated ideas that are based on assumptions that if I just go down and look, okay, so you're saying this is because of that, but why do you think this is there? That level of just inquiring. I'm not just questioning from poking holes. It's just, okay, you said that this is because of that, but how do you know that that is true? That level of critical thinking doesn't exist, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, and there's also, going back to the social connections, there's also this need to belong to a group.
Right.
And sometimes that group
wow.
is very, and so so it's almost like the fear of, imagine let's say everybody you know is on the left side.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you start shifting a little bit to the middle. And then what happens to you then being an outsider to this group, but at the same time, the right
wow.
doesn't want you yet, maybe. I don't know, I'm just making things up. But
yeah.
do you know what I'm saying?
You become in this awkward position where, and the need to belong is probably the strongest yearnings that a human.
Yeah. So I think,
powerful.
so that's, you know what I mean? That's, so that it's complex, you know,
it's very
not,
complicated.
you know,
yeah.
But yeah.
So anyway, so social,
Yep.
that's very, very important. Yep. And this is where you cultivate it. So yeah.
And the next one is the career fulfillment, this is where I've spent, you know, this is where I spend a lot of my time in the work that I do, especially, and the work that I've done is, and I think I've learned, because people would come to me again, like, you know, ever since I started doing I fell into career coaching, by the way. I don't even promote myself as a career coach. It's everybody's a coach. I don't want to be in that
Yeah,
view.
that's just the third in line, the words that I hate.
Yeah. So like I you know, so
the easiest thing to claim, right?
Yeah. So I don't, it just happens. It's just part of my work. So just kind of, you know, I've had way too many jobs. I had 17 jobs before I was 25. I hire people, I fired people, I do recruitment. So like so I know what that career job search is like. So I can offer some tangible advice around that. So that's why people come to me. Otherwise, like, you know,
you try to stay away from coaching. Yes,
in that
I
sense.
know. It's a tainted profession.
Exactly. Yeah. So, so anyway, but career fulfillment is a real thing. And I think one of the things that I've done, not realizing that I was doing it, is when I was younger, because I've had 17 jobs before the age of 25, because I kept experimenting, because I realized I was like, I don't want to do this thing. And that didn't align with my values, like deep down, like something was off, like I don't, you know, et cetera. And so I was very good at continuously, you know, trying different things until I found something that truly kind of, where I feel like I can add value, you know, I can make money from this.
That's a virtue. That's actually a strength.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, so, and I talked to a lot of people that, you know, we spend so many hours working, right? So, and I think we're in this mindset that, oh, you've done this job. Like, one of the biggest challenges people have when they come to me around career change is, oh, I don't know what else I can do. What do you mean you don't know what else you can do? Like, there's like, if you look back at your 15 years of experience, even if you've been in one area and one role, there's a ton of skills that you've gained. And I think that goes back to this limited mindset where it's like, we're just stuck in this thing instead of saying, like, what else is there? What haven't I tried? What's next, right? Like, what else can I do? Who can help me get to that point? So to find that fulfilling career, because I think that's a big part of health. One of the worst things you can do is to do something that's not aligned with yourself. Now, before I continue with that, I do have a disclaimer that I am in full awareness that there are people in this world who cannot do what they enjoy. And I'm not saying do something you're passionate about. That's not even about that. It's just something you enjoy, something you're good at 75% of the time, you enjoy it, etc. There's always going to be, even in owning your own business, there's going to be shenanigans and 25% of complete chaos. And you're like, why do I do this? And I want to quit and all that. But you should aim for a majority of the time that you actually enjoy what you do. It gives you energy. And that's
There's a difference between enjoying what you do and following your passion. Those are completely different advices.
Exactly. So, and I'm not a huge fan of like follow your passion, because most of the time, like, you know what I mean? It's just,
what if your passion is skewed by what the world thinks your passion should be and whatever? I mean, that's a whole different thing.
So I just want to clarify that. And also I realized that sometimes we're in situations where you have to make money and you're going to do a job because you need to feed your family. So I think that aside, circumstances, you know, and sometimes you have to do what you need to do until you can do what you want to do. So I think have a plan, and sometimes you'll spend your whole life just making a living to feed your family because of the circumstances you're in, and that's okay. Anyway, so we'll touch base on that. But so I'm talking to the population of people who have access to information, have access to jobs, have access to learning new things, which is most of the people that are going to be listening to this. They have access to opportunities, and the only blocker they have is themselves. Period. So when you are doing a job that is not aligned with maybe what comes natural to you, what you enjoy, what's happening is that maybe you're good at it and you make good money, but you're draining yourself. So for me, for example, could I do accounting? I'm just making the I failed it twice in college, but you know, could I do accounting? Could I learn it?
Can you stand an Excel sheet?
I cannot stand Excel sheet, but could I do Excel sheets? Sure. Could I learn? Sure. Do you know the amount of brain damage it's going to do to me in terms of like the energy level? Kill me now if I have to do Excel. Like that's a deal breaker, right? But could I do it? Yes.
I have a couple of friends who just find passion. They geek out on the kind of formulas and
no, I can't. I cannot, So, but could I do it? Yes. But would it drain me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would it drain me to be in a role that it's hard. It's too hard for me. And we're in this like, well, and
it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. Yeah. So you're going to get burnt out eventually.
And you should know that early on before you actually reach that tipping point of being burnt out.
Yeah. But people do it. You know why? Also because collectively, a lot of people stay within certain roles collectively because it's the norm. It's okay. Nobody likes their job. No. Just your circle don't like it. Your circle doesn't like their job. There are plenty of people that are having fulfilling careers, enjoying what they do, and so on. And I think that's where the passion things becomes misconstrued in this conversation because everybody thinks it's passion. No. It's not about passion. Forget about your passion is your hobby. Go ride a bike, go skydiving, whatever, feed your soul. Draw. If you're going to make money, great. You want to open up a skydiving studio or whatever, or a company, wonderful. But that's a small percentage of population, right? So... but to that point so going back to people who don't, their values and all, you're going to hit burnout, period. Like that's going to happen eventually, right? Or we call it a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
That's because you've been doing things that are not aligned with who you are. And what's interesting is that every time there's studies and, research around and stories, career stories around people, when they decide to do a career change and they're not sure where to go, they usually end up somewhere where they used to do in school. What they used, the activities that came naturally to them, things that they used to do as passion or like
before the noise and the toxic influence of the society and the professional world. Okay.
But also there's a lot of cultural aspects. If you're from certain parts of the world, you only need to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, etc. So anything creative, forget about it. So you're already pushed into that category.
That's my world.
Yeah, so you're pushed into a lot of the Middle East, a lot of the Asian cultures are like that. It's like if you're not this, like what are you doing?
You're devalued immediately.
You're devalued immediately, and you won't even find a life partner. It's even tied into a life partner. I mean, it's
tied
a nightmare.
to everything, social status, right?
Exactly. So, but with that being said, I'm not saying people should drop their jobs and go pursue what they enjoy and try to find that thing. We have responsibilities. We have responsibilities. And there are situations again where you cannot get out of it. What helps to help you balance that, what you need to do with your fueling your authentic self, if you want to call that, is to find things outside of your work that bring you joy. And I think that's what we don't do a lot of. And
like a supplement.
Like a supplement, exactly, like a supplement. Because, I'm fully aware that it's difficult to make a career change. And the Dubai market is very difficult. And the US also, it has its difficulties.
It's unique here because of also the visa, the sponsor, the lifestyle.
Exactly. And you can do it. Maybe it takes you 6 months, somebody else a year, somebody else 5 years.
There you go.
But during that period, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do something you enjoy because you need to do that because it adds to your overall performance and productivity.
Like something drains you, the other thing charges you.
Exactly. Because what happens if you're just draining, then you come home, you complain to your wife or your husband, then they're drained, then your marriage is drained,
it's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, and it's all connected, which is why I say it doesn't operate in silos. Everything impacts.
I like that.
And so, I'm a true believer that we can all have fulfilling careers, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing a fulfilling career, but it means that you're doing these other things on the side that fill you. That when you're at your job, you can actually enjoy it a little bit more. Because you have that energy from the outside things that you're doing. And that's what I think a lot of mistakes people make, the mistake that people make. It's a reward, because then it makes you happy. So you're getting that dopamine, that happiness from the thing that you're doing. So when you go to your work, you know that you're working because you need to make a living, but at the same time, you are feeding your soul.
Practically, it's like that saying, I have a life. So that's outside of work. So if your work is your life, then probably this is a red flag. But what is a fulfilling career?
I think a fulfilling career is where you are, the way I define it is when you are waking up and you're excited to make a difference.
Excited. You're not dragging your weight.
You're not dragging your weight. You're excited. You're excited because I know this is, maybe it sounds strange to people, but I'm that annoying person who's excited every day. Like I'm annoying, not all day, but I cannot wait to wake up because of all the different things that I'm doing and all the creativity and all the building. Like I'm a builder by nature.
And you don't have an ounce of caffeine in your blood.
And I do not have an ounce of caffeine for the last I had tea recently, but I did cut out coffee and caffeine pretty much. But so
it's excitement that makes you think or know whether you're having a career fulfillment path or not?
Yeah, and
Is
something
it going up or down?
exactly.
Let's say?
And are you creating? Are you building? Are you producing something? Are you putting something out of value? Is your work making an impact? Right. You need to
Right,
feel that
right.
it makes an impact and all of that. So I think that. And does it energize you? That's the thing.
Yes.
Does it energize you? Because a lot of people, they judge the whole entrepreneurship journey, for example, right? And or people who work hard, and people tell me all the time, like, Elena, you just work all the time. I'm like, you don't like. I'm like, yeah, but it energizes. I'm energized by my work. I'm not drained by my work, so I don't feel like it's work. Some aspects of it, yes, like Excel sheets, but otherwise, like it's not work. I'm energized by it. I love what I do.
There's always the saying that if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly, and it sounds very, very woo woo.
It's cliche.
Yeah, it's cliche, but there's something to it. And I am that annoying person that like I actually really enjoy what I do. I take pride in what I do.
We're here on a weekend, right?
Yeah, we're here on a weekend. Yeah, I mean I work weekends.
There you go. I mean the concept of weekends is kind of completely blurred now because of that, and that's okay.
That's okay. And again, as long as you're okay with that, So anyway, so that's on.
So this is career fulfillment.
This is career fulfillment, and the last piece is nutrition. And I've recently kind of plugged this in.
Ooh, that's a big one.
I've recently plugged this in also just through my own kind of journey and learning about, educating about my body and so on, and how much your gut health impacts your mood.
Yes.
How much your gut health impacts, as I mentioned before, it has more nerves in the body. Your gut has more nerves than anywhere in the body. And there's a very strong connection between your gut and your brain. And I think when we are eating processed foods that are just not meant for us, it is draining us internally, literally, right? And then it's also impacting the way we think. It impacts our level of creativity. And when I was working with somebody, one of my clients, she said, I didn't know how bad I felt until I felt better.
Say that again.
So I didn't know, and I feel the same way about that statement, is I didn't know how bad I felt until I felt better. So when you're in the state of not sleeping, not, eating crap food and don't know, your glucose levels all over the
you're
place.
Always tired.
You're always tired. You're spiking your glucose throughout the day.
Your insulin is always on the rise. Yeah.
And so on. And you're not exercising, you're not doing like all those different other things that contribute.
You walk up the stairs, you're panting.
Yeah, and it's like, it's kind of, you got used to it, right? Because we're getting used to it.
This is how it's
supposed to be. And you don't really, and it's bad, but you don't know how bad it is until you feel better. And when you feel better, you're like, wow, like that's where I was? Why? Why did I spend so much time there when all I had to do was X, Y, and Z?
That's the quality of life and the actual knowledge of a better quality of life.
Yeah, and what I always find it interesting in organizations, like in the training world, right? Let's say you do like a half a day or a day training, right? Which is a whole other conversation. They don't work, yada yada yada. We can spend a whole other day on that, but people, you put people in the room first. You jack them up with coffee and cookies in the morning. That's right, or pastries. Right, you
crazy, isn't it?
Right, crazy, but it's like we don't think about it.
Those croissants and like, why did you? Who ordered that? Like,
and then you want them to go and learn. Their insulin, glucose, like and depending on the health of the person, for some people it's even worse.
Yeah, metabolism is just done,
shut down. They're probably not even with you. They're not cognitively fully functioning at that point. They're
capacity is not there at all.
Not at all. And then you get them to sit, of course, right? Like for most, it's a lecture style. And then for lunch, you give them some. In the US, it's if it's not pizza, it's pasta, it's something else.
Same here. It's probably rice with some sauce,
and then followed again by sugar and coffee and etc. And we don't realize how much it's impacting how we think and how much information we retain.
Absolutely.
So I think just in the workplace, I think that's a thing, right? And going back to just the
would you call it the slum? There's the slum period after lunch and the slum period after
it's like when you want to take a nap, right?
Exactly.
And that's why you need another shot of coffee, which is so your body's just going through multiple phases. You're not even aware of it, but your little ecosystem inside of you with all these trillions of bacteria and organisms and whatever they are that are just working overtime. And what the thing that's happening at the same time is it's draining all of your organs. So that's why gut is connected to everything, right? So it's processing all that trash. Excuse my language, maybe it's not trash, but it's processing all these foods.
Sometimes it's trash.
Yeah, sometimes it's trash.
If you're on Doritos.
Yeah, so it's processing all that. So your body is working extra because it's trying to get rid of toxins. So instead of operating and diversifying nutrients where they need to go, like that's what your spleen does, right? Like it takes all the nutrients from the body and it gives it to the rest of your body. And so instead of actually operating effectively and making you satisfied with your food and stop eating, it's not processing because it's not doing its job because it's just trying to get rid of toxins that you're putting in your body through the food.
Working overtime to keep you alive.
To keep you alive.
Yeah.
Instead of keeping you at optimal level.
Yes.
So and imagine you're doing that continuously.
There's an ancient Arabic saying that says the gut is the gateway to health and to sickness. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy that those ancient people knew about it. And I'm sure in every culture around the globe, you have the same way of thinking about, not just food, but your gut.
Yeah.
Your gut as in the gateway for everything, because practically it is.
It is. It really, really is. And there's tons of studies. Yeah, tons of studies.
It's crazy what you just, have a pack of crisps, and then after that you have probably a sugary drink, and then after that probably you'll have a processed meat burger that has all sorts of ingredients other than health. You put it there, not even ants will go near it. Yeah. And it's okay for you to consume it, and then you go to the movies and you have these manufactured kind of chemically processed popcorns, and and then you end up saying, why am I not able to perform?
Yeah. And it impacts, again, for women, it impacts your hormones. It impacts everything. Infertility is a big challenge right now for a lot of people for different reasons. But a lot of it is under these 5 pillars.
Yeah.
Because everything is around stress. Stress causes a lot of illnesses. You then eat bad food, which your body's chronically under stress. You're not operating at your best. You don't have a career that fulfills you. You're not moving enough. Your mindset is crap, and then you're lonely. So like all of that, but we don't, so it doesn't operate in silos. It's all connected.
Yeah, that's a perfect audit system. You just do a kind of an audit. Like do an audit on your life. Okay, how's your sleep? How's your activity? How's your relationships? How's your mindset? How's your fulfillment at work? How's your diet? Just go through this one by one, literally in a checkbox thing. Okay, this is tick, tick. You know what? The past 5 years were crap. Probably this is why I'm tired all the time. Probably this is why I'm not able to function. Probably this is why I get triggered the moment this guy cuts me off at the street and I just slash at them.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot, but I would just choose 1 or 2 things you want to start with that are really impacting. And to everybody's different depending on which level they're at. But I think that to me ultimately is where you start. It's just finding the lowest point, and it can be as simple as today I'm going to drink more water, or I'm going to start 5 minutes walks every day, or I'm going to cut out sugar, or I'm going to cut out carb, or like a pizza and like bad, all this the bad stuff. So just choosing either to
start small,
either eliminate something or introduce something. So very small, or maybe as simple as I'm going to watch a podcast on this.
Right. Educate yourself.
It doesn't even have to be,
it doesn't have to be action immediately.
Not necessarily. I mean, preferably, but if you're not there yet, at least give yourself the awareness. And that's it. And I think that's where also we complicate things, because we think when it comes to change, we have to change everything. No. Bring it down. What can you do? What is easy? What if this was easy? Where would you start? How small? No matter how small it is. I don't care if it's 5 minutes. Just start. Because eventually those 5 minutes, as long as you consistently stay with it, that 5 minutes will get to 10 minutes and 15 minutes and so on. And it's compound effect, right? And then you don't have to rely on motivation. You don't have to rely on anything else, because you're now disciplined. It keeps you disciplined, because everybody has 5 minutes. And if you don't have 5 minutes to make a change in your life, then I cannot help you. I'll talk to you when you're ready. I will talk to you, listen to this when you're ready, come back to this when you're ready. But so I think it's simpler than we imagine. And you just have to start.
How do you see, I don't know if you have this information or not, and if you don't, that's fine. How do you see the state of awareness about these things in the professional world here in the GCC, and specifically in Dubai, let's say in the UAE?
I have to also, so to this point something out, that this wellness thing is kind of a privilege to some. So what I mean by that is that, and I've been in those situations where, you don't have money, you're just trying to feed a family. Last thing you're going to care about is these 5 pillars.
Right.
because your priorities, you're in survival mode. And so a lot of people, not just in GC, but in other parts of the world, are in survival mode. It's not, they see it as a luxury. Access to testing, access to certain healthcare is a luxury.
Sure.
Access to or time is a luxury. Some people spend time commuting 2 hours, 3 hours, public transportation, etc. Right? They just don't have that, etc. So I think that's important. I think that in the GCC, I think that awareness is not there, not to the level that it should be. I think people are starting to recognize it, but I think there's also a lot of cultural things here that, again, depending on the unique part about GCC is because there's so many cultures. So there's so many nationalities, there's so many cultures. Like truly, like I mean, there's hubs of distinct things that influence decisions and stuff like that, and how people live their lives and so on. I think people are starting to wake up here to the wellness, because you see like all the wellness gyms, all etc.
Healthy, joy, and even the restaurants now, they're very, very particular about their ingredients, what they declare, and
I think that's there, but I think on individual level, it's still not there to that level. I think, generally speaking, I think there's just a small percentage of people in the world that actually go into these 5 pillars, and they do it effectively, and they actually go deeper into that. So I think that, and also, I mean, frankly speaking, in the GCC, again, like we were talking about, when you're talking about career fulfillment and these sort of things, because of the visa situation, because of, yes, it's you can start a business.
Fear of loss of lifestyle.
Exactly. And a business is very, it's easy to start, but it's expensive.
Right.
Here, so
to maintain,
it's expensive to maintain, and it's an expensive, life to live here.
Yes.
So I think there's some blockers as well, pressures and blockers that stop you from, So I think it's a unique region for that.
It's easier to start. You have the awareness, but then you can get derailed quite quickly. Thank you. It's an amazing talk. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Likewise.